Now, we can't deal with pop art without dealing with Andy Warhol. He's probably the most famous of these artists, and even if you don't recognize any other pop art, you're probably going to recognize pieces, or at least the ideas, of Andy Warhol. Now, he's arguably the most successful and highly painted commercial illustrator in New York, even before he begins making art for the galleries. Nevertheless, his screen-printed images of Marilyn Monroe, soup cans, sensational newsprint stories quickly become synonymous with pop art. He emerges from the poverty and obscurity of an Eastern European immigrant family in Pittsburgh to become a charismatic magnet for the bohemian New York, and to ultimately find a place in the circles of high society. For many, his ascent echoes one of pop art's ambitions to bring popular styles and subjects into the exclusive salons of high art. And that's precisely what he's doing. He's using his commercial art ideas and creating high art, and something that's been accepted as high art, because of course you can't create pop art and claim to take over high art if you don't actually get accepted and actually take over high art. His elevation to the status of a popular icon represented a new kind of fame and celebrity for a fine artist. He, of course, gets tied into a lot of different social ideas at the time. In fact, here we're looking at his studio, and it's termed the factory because of the number of pieces that he turns out. He's trying to commodify art, much like pop art is looking at the commodification of the American consumer and everything around them, that everything is suddenly purchasable. Warhol grabs onto that and just won't let go. And he creates the Marilyn Diptych, among other things. Now, Marilyn Monroe dies in August of 1962, having overdosed on barbiturates. In the following 4 months, Warhol made more than 20 silkscreen paintings of her, all based on the same publicity photograph from the 1953 film Niagara. And he found in Monroe a fusion of two of his consistent themes, death and the cult of celebrity. See, he actively comes out and says, I am making money. I'm trying to create a piece on the back of Marilyn Monroe's death. I'm trying to take advantage of her death. And to us today, we kind of sit there and go, ooh, that's kind of greasy. We don't want, no, that's not right. But Warhol sits there and looks at the commodity, which is celebrity, and goes, well, why not? Why not take someone who is a celebrity and use their image to make a profit? After all, isn't that exactly what Marilyn Monroe was? Think about it. When we look at this image of Marilyn Monroe, this is not Marilyn Monroe. This is the headshot of Marilyn Monroe. This is the image, but it's not Norma Jean Baker. It's not who she is when she's at home, when she's married to Arthur Miller or Lou Gehrig or whoever else. This is her as a movie star. This is her commodity. And so Warhol gives us this image. Now, first of all, we see the repetition of image, reflecting how Marilyn Monroe is everywhere in the early 1960s. She's a major celebrity. She's showing up in advertisements, movies, everywhere. At the same time, we have the black and white images, the images that remind us of a film negative. And what you see is kind of interesting. So as we look at it, if we start as if we're sort of reading, we start in the upper left and we go down, we see the image just keeps getting darker, and then it starts to fade. And by the time we get to the end, up here, there's almost nothing. This is celebrity, because even when a celebrity dies, Michael Jackson or Anna Nicole Simpson or Marilyn Monroe, they don't just disappear. It's not as if Michael Jackson never existed and people stopped buying his albums. they continue in memory, they fade. Whereas when most people die, that fade is much, much faster. Because there's only a few people that know us, that will remember our names, that will whisper our names on their breath. Marilyn Monroe, on the other hand, we're still talking about today, some 60 years later. So that fame continues, it just fades very, very slowly. So we're seeing a representation of that in the black and white. On the other side, we're reminded of that mask that she wears that makes her Marilyn Monroe as opposed to Norma Jean Baker. By using those vibrant colors, it is a mask. He's showing us not who she is, but who she wants to show us.